In my previous video, I talked about the first steps of understanding ourselves is to understand our egos, our personality, and our psyche. And I mentioned how the psyche creates our personality, our ego. In this video, I'll put an emphasis on having an awareness of our personality ego. Now, what is having an awareness on our personality ego going to do? Well, it's going to help us accept um, a part of us that most people do not like to see. Most people do not want to witness, right? And when we don't want to witness something that is a part of ourselves, then a piece of our lives is feels incomplete, right? So understanding and accepting a part of ourselves, including things that we do not want to see and we want to hide, is going to help us fulfill our lives on another level. Right. So that is what having an awareness of your ego and personality is going to do. Right. It's going to help you accept a part of yourself that you might be hiding, or you, yeah, you might be hiding unconsciously, or you might be hiding consciously, or something that you need to learn about yourself to live a fulfilling life that you want to live. Right. So that is what having an awareness of your ego and personality is going to do. It's going to help you accept a part of yourself, which is how you are, how you're showing up with the external world, right? Not necessarily just the public in general, but how you show up with others, right? How you want to show up with others is part of your ego and personality. Your ego and personality is not there for you to judge if it's good or bad. It's there for you to gauge how you show up with the external world, right? And so when we can think of our personality ego in that way, we can mold our ego and personality the way we would like. We can mold the way we want to show up with our external world the way we would like, right? It's going to show us how we show up in the external world, right? Whether we like it or not, right? And if it's something that we don't like, then we can reconstruct it the way we like. So think about the way you show up with your family, right? Think about the way you show up as a mother, as a father, as a child. Think about how you show up with your siblings, how you show up um, with strangers when you go out to do groceries. Think about how you show up at your job, at your career, at school, right? You put up an ego, you put up a certain personality, right? This is part of the human experience, right? Ego and personality is part of the human experience, right? So we have to accept this part of ourselves, right? There's nothing wrong with having ego or personality. This is how human society has been created. We create egos and personalities to help us function in this society that we have built, right? And it helps us fulfill the life that we want to live, right? So just think about how you show up in the world, right? Have an awareness of the different egos and the different personalities that you put up when you are expressing yourself in the external world, right? Again, as how you show up at work, how you show up at home, right? Think about this after you get up in the morning, because after you get up in the morning is when the ego and personality hasn't fully shown up yet, right? It's still forming until you have an interaction with the external world, anybody in the external world, right? Another way to do this which this is a good way that you could build a foundation with your personality is take an MBTI test, right? For me, taking the MBTI test was a game changer for me. It gave me a foundation, right? First of all, before you take these tests, do not think that this is the be all end all, right? I'm not a fan of putting yourself in a box unless you want to experience putting yourself in a box. That's fine. But I'm not a fan of putting myself in a box. I see myself as a fluid being. So when I take tests like these that give me a result, I don't put myself in a box. And I recommend that you don't too, unless you want to experience something like that. But taking the MBTI test for me was a game changer. It gave me a foundation of how I shown up was showing up to the world. At that point, I didn't really know fully how I looked when I didn't know how I was projecting myself towards the external world until I took the MBTI test, and it was like a snowball effect where I wanted to understand how I was projecting myself to the external world. This is something that a lot of human beings don't look at, right? So for me, it was a big experience for me when I took the MBTI test. My result came as INFJ. Some tests came out as an INFP. I always knew I was an introvert, but I didn't know how I was showing as an introvert. So it's going to tell you what type of introvert you are, right? It's not enough to give you to understand that you're an introvert, but what type of introvert you are, right? It made me understand the way I was thinking, right? So a uh, a part of it was showing me how my psyche was operating, right? But this video was talking about personality in general. But it's saying that the MBTI test will show you how you show up in the world, the way you project yourself to the world, the way other people see you, right? The way other people's absorb your projection, right? The way people absorb your mirroring, right? Having that knowledge is going to help you accept yourself. That's the whole point of having an awareness of your ego and personality, whether it's good or bad, whether you judge it as good or bad, right? There are parts of myself after I took the MBTI test. There are parts of myself that I realized that I didn't really like, but I accepted it because I was like, wow, I didn't know this about myself until now that I did this MBTI test. I said, wow, this I had no other choice to accept this about myself, right? I didn't realize until I took the test, like I said. Um, so that's what is going to happen when you become more aware of your personality and your ego, right? And what happens when you accept this part of yourself? You're gonna realize that maybe this has been running my life. We've been letting our egos and our personalities run on autopilot, like a majority of humanity does, right? We let our egos and personalities run on autopilot, right? Because since we don't keep in touch with our psyche, right? Since we don't keep in touch with our soul and our spirit, we put so much emphasis on the external world, which is egos and personalities, right? We put so much emphasis on egos and personalities, right? We put so much weight onto that. So having an awareness of your ego and your personality is going to make you in touch with your ego and personality to the point where you're not going to make it the be all end all. You're not going to put it on a pedestal, right? You're not going to put so much importance onto it as before. You're not going to put it on an autopilot, right? It's going to help you get in touch with your soul. It's going to help you get in touch with your psyche, which which is what your ego and your personality is drawn from, your psyche and your soul, right? It's gonna get help you get in touch with your spirit, which is more important, more real, right? Because your ego and personality is not, it's not something real. It's more materialistic. I shouldn't say real. It's just more materialistic. It's just a veneer, right? It's important, right? It is important, but it's more materialistic and more of a facade, more of and when I say facade, I mean fake. I don't mean fake. I mean it's just the surface level, right? So when we have an awareness of our ego and personality, we start to not put it put the personality and ego on a pedestal, not only with yourself but with other people, right? You start to see that their personality and ego has its own thing. This has its own world. Your personality and ego has its own world, right? And when we start to have an awareness of that, it doesn't have the same control as it does over us as before, when we were unaware of it, when we were less conscious of it, right? That's what this having this awareness of your personality and ego is important, right? You hear the saying that some people have big egos, right? It's only because they let their egos go on autopilot. They let their personalities go on autopilot, right? They have less. They're less in touch with their soul, right? That's what the saying "big egos" come from, right? And yeah, thank you for watching this video.